Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James, the channel that brings you your team every single day, guys. We're back and it is Friday. We are building up, obviously, towards the St Johnstone game on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see how many fans actually turn up for that game. Given how I think the mood is around the club at the moment, I want to talk, obviously, about the possibility there may be a new CEO announced today. That is what the sort of smart kind of rumour that is doing the rounds at the moment. No rumours, obviously, as regards players or player links. I think that's kind of died a death after the Champions League debacle. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about Zach Lovelace as well. I know lots of you have been asking about Zach. What's going on with him? Where is he? What's he up to? We're going to have a bit of news about him as well. So, look, I think we're all in a similar sort of position at the moment. I think there's an awful lot. I think, look, I've read, look, I'm not talking about social media. Social media is poisonous. Social media is a place where people spout, I think, and there's a lot of stuff on there that the silent minority the silent majority are quietened by the vocal minority. There seems to be very much a split in Rangers fan base as regards where we are as a club, directions, attitudes to players, attitudes to different, different scenarios at the club. And, there's an awful lot going on. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts over the last couple of days. I was listening to Heart and Hand, walking the dog after work. And obviously, David Edgar was very honest. I thought David Edgar was absolutely fantastic, considering Heart and Hand obviously are a club partner and, have got a lot to lose in stating what they do. David Edgar talked about the fact, that the club is in a shambles and there's been some absolutely appalling decisions made over the last few years and the club's not going anywhere at this moment in time. And I think David was right. And it's nice to hear that someone like David Edgar, who's very well respected, obviously leads one of the biggest Rangers podcast platforms out there, he's kind of saying, I think the vast majority of fans are saying at this moment in time, as a club, it's a shambles. It is a genuine shambles. I mean, the board seemed to lurch from one disaster to another. The organisation and the running of the club is very poor at this moment in time. I think the lack of a CEO is certainly hurting Rangers. It's hurting Rangers massively. Someone who genuinely knows what to do, genuinely knows how to run a football club, genuinely knows, what the best way of driving the business forward, both off and on the pitch. And I think, John Bennett is trying to do that job and chairman and pretty much making an absolute dog's breakfast of both of the jobs. So I think that is something that we do need to appoint sooner rather than later. And there is obviously stories around regarding that. We will get to that. In terms of the squad as well, I think, I borrowed this graphic from Rangers Review, but, the squad in itself, it is probably 10 times, I don't know, it's an awful lot weaker than it was last season. And we all kind of, know that last season's squad was genuinely not good enough and was not going to win anything. Well, won the League Cup, I suppose, but realistically, if Celtic hadn't choked and fallen apart a little bit, never would have been back in the league race. I mean, John Lundstrom today, whose Trabzonspor team crashed out of the Europa League. You've got Trabzonspor fans taking to social media, including some of the well-respected fan groups, saying that they want his contract cancelled. They've never seen a player so negative. They've never seen a player lose the ball so often. They've never seen a player so hopeless in their entire lives, and they want his contract cancelled and they want him sacked from the club. I mean, tells a story in itself. I think it tells a story what a lot of us were saying about John Lundstrom. It's not just us now. They're echoing the point that he was a very, negative, backwards, sideways kind of player who gave the ball away a lot and really did struggle. But looking back at that squad graphic that I've just shared with you, that's like I said, borrowed from Rangers Review. That squad is substantially weaker than last season's squad. I mean, you look at it and you look at out of that those players listed there, you would say that, well, look, realistic top starters that you definitely want your squad in your team. Butland, yes. Proper, yes. Barron, yes. Dio, yes. Cheney, yes. That's it. I mean, that is pretty poor, isn't it? I mean, you're talking what? 1, 2, 3, One, two, three, four, five, maybe out of a team of 11 that you would say are guaranteed starters, that look like starters, that look like quality enough players to actually be starters. And I think that is exceptionally worrying for me. I didn't even include Ridvan on the list. And look, I love Ridvan. I think he's a top player, but his injury history now is becoming very concerning indeed. And obviously, there's been no update on his condition, that thigh injury he seemed to suffer against Dynamo Kiev. It's just, again, another breakdown from him. So that's obviously worrying. Hefte, was sent off. Defensively, he's not great. He's good going forward, don't get me wrong, and his delivery into the box is very good. But, his defensive skills, as we know, are something that needs to be worked upon. A proper outlook defender. Davis is a bomb scare, and Ciala is someone who, genuinely hasn't played a lot of first-team football and doesn't look to be in the manager's plans as regards first-team football. I mean, John Suter had a good game on Tuesday night against Kiev, but realistically, is he a star? Sometimes he has that fundamental mistake in him. You could argue Big Leon is, but Big Leon obviously is 36 years old. Leon King, I think he's still very young and inexperienced. James Tavernier passed it. Sterling is arguable, but where's his best position? Where do you get the best out of him? And Dio and Barron, I think, hold those positions down. There's no one to come close to them. Cheney looks class. McCausland looks too lightweight. Scott Wright is just dreadful. Oscar Cortez, injury prone. I think he will be a good player if we can keep him fit. Rabbi Matondo doesn't look great. Apparently Leeds want him. If they want him, they can have him. The number 10 place, I just despair with the number 10. If we're going to persist in playing a number 10, at least play one of your best number 10s, which is either Hadji or Cantwell. And I know what the argument is. The argument is, well, Hadji and Cantwell want to leave. Well, yes. So, what? We're still paying their wages. We still pay them weekly. We still pay them a substantial amount of money. So, why aren't we using them? There are players still. You put him in. You put those players out there in the marketplace. You put them in the shop window. You don't stick them in the B team and say, "Well, that's it. You're done and dusted, and we're going to carry on paying you 25 grand a week." In the case of Todd Cantwell, to do absolutely nothing, naff all, I think is very bad management. As for centre forwards, Danilo, who knows what is he injured? Is he not injured? Clement says yes. It says no. He looks injured to me with the way he's walking, but doesn't appear to be part of the plans. And I think the explanation that, if we were 2-3-0 up, he'd put him on. Well, really? I mean, he's not a kid. Dessers is just hopeless, and Igman is not even fit yet. So, I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, like I said, that squad is just dire, if you want about it, and it is a lot worse than last season's. Now, I think, this rebuild that is currently undergoing is really lacking direction. It's lacking momentum. I mean, it's not even a rebuild. It's taking a sticking plaster and trying to put it on a bone that's stuck on a broken leg, which has got a bone sticking out of the skin. I think that's how genuinely bad it is. I mean, it's not a rebuild at all. It's a falling apart. I mean, the foundations aren't in place before we even start trying to build brick walls around the property. So that's where we're at. We do need direction. We do need leadership. We do need something from that. And I think a new CEO is, got to be out there. I think they've left it way too late. I think we should have a new CEO right from the start of this transfer window, or pretty much as soon as we know that James Bisgrove was going. I mean, the man that seems to be talked about is Andrew McKinley, who is the current CEO of Hearts, a man with a vast experience in football, in Scottish football, which obviously would stand him in good stead. Anyone who comes into Rangers who has a good understanding of the Scottish game, understanding of the SFA, understanding of how the Scottish game works, and has been, relatively successful at Hearts. Hearts are not in a position, obviously, to challenge the old firm, but Hearts have certainly put together a team that are capable of being the best of the rest in Scotland. And finding some pretty decent players. I mean, this is taken from the Hearts website about Andrew McKinley. It says Andrew has extensive senior management experience with the Scottish FA and Scottish Golf. Took up the CEO position in August 2020. So he's been with Hearts for 3 years now. He reports directly to Anne Budge in her role as executive chairman. Andrew takes overall responsibility for the club's day-to-day operations. And I think that's what we need at Rangers, someone with a football understanding to actually run the club day-to-day, because it's quite clear that John Bennett can't do that. Andrew spent 16 years as a lawyer before moving into the sporting sector in 2012 when he joined the Scottish FA as Chief Operating Officer, then Interim Chief Executive before taking on the Chief Executive role at Scottish Golf in 2018. He was appointed to Board of Directors at the 2020 AGM. That was with Hearts, of course. I mean, he's done a good job at Hearts. He's a football man. He's someone who quite clearly, I think, has a direction, knows how to lead a football club. I mean, and also this fact that he has an experience of Scottish football, understanding of Scottish football. That could stand us in good stead in terms of perhaps shopping domestically now that, the Champions League is gone. Yes, we have Europa League football, but the funds are certainly not, are going to be as bountiful or as fruitful as we would hope they would be. It's something that we need to put into place. And like I said, there is this rumor going around that there will be a big announcement from Rangers, although knowing Rangers, it will be just something like Rangers are proud to present Tenor Man as their match day sponsor or something. But, Andrew McKinley would be a very, very good appointment. I mean, he's one of the names that's certainly been mentioned since since the news emerged that James Pisgrove was to depart the club. So it would be a very good appointment. It'd be interesting as well to see, how we get him away from Hearts and what Hearts' take on this is, losing their Chief Executive Officer. But it's something that needs to be done sooner rather than later. We do need a direction at the top, and we do need a football man in there, not just a marketing man who's got experience with UEFA or some organisation like that. And I think Andrew McKinley is definitely someone who is a football man. Look, away from obviously the Chief Executive Officer and the board side of things, we know how bad the board are. The centre forward position at Rangers at this moment in time is one that badly needs addressed. I mean, we do need a striker. We need someone who's a reliable striker. And I'm sorry to all the Cyril Dessers lovers out there. And I've read some absolute pish on social media over the last few days. The funniest one has to be that Cyril Dessers' hold-up play on Tuesday night was excellent. I mean, they must have been watching a different game because his hold-up play was fucking shocking. Dessers is just inconsistently consistent. That's what he is. He misses too many easy chances. He couldn't trap a bag of cement. He can't hold the ball up. And whatever you think of that rant or not rant, or swearing at the fans or not swearing at the fans, whatever it was, the guy just is not up to it. I mean, he isn't a Rangers number 9, and he never will be. People say we scored 22 goals last season. Yeah, but look at the amount of games he played and the amount of chances that he had generated from him, and the amount of chances that he actually went on to miss. I genuinely feel if you'd had Danilo fit all last season, he scores more than Dessers. I think if you hang on to Antonio Cholak and can, create the chances that Dessers had for Cholak scores more than Dessers. Dessers for me is just dreadful. He is genuinely very dreadful. Danilo, like I said, isn't really fit. And Igman, well, he's nowhere near fit and just seems to be a ridiculous amount of money spent on a kid that can't play football yet, which I don't get. Now, a lot of you have asked about Zach Lovelace. Zach was on the bench for the B team that won the Scottish Trust Cup game the other day, 3-2, against an experienced team. He was on the bench and he came on for the last half an hour. You can see his name there in between Robertson and Eadie. Apparently, in that performance the other night, there was a good performance by Nsiala, although he did give away a penalty. A good performance by Captain King, a good performance from Bailey Rice, and an outstanding performance from Paul Ncio, the central midfielder, someone I definitely think we should be looking at for first team honours this season. Zach Lovelace, apparently he came on. Rangers were up. I mean, this kind of shows the difference. Rangers were reduced to 10 men in that game. I think it was Callum Burnside who was sent off for a pretty bad tackle that resulted in the player actually going off injured. But Lovelace led the line and did everything that Dessers didn't do. The other night he held, and I know it's a different level of competition and a different level of team. I get that. But he held the ball up well. His pace stretched the opposition. They were able to get in behind still because of Lovelace's pace. He looked quality. He looked really, really good. Now, I would argue that why are we not, now he's fit, now he's getting back to fitness, why would we not stick Zach Lovelace in the squad? Give him a run out. I don't think he can do any worse than Cyril Dessers. In fact, I think in the long run, he's probably better than Cyril Dessers. Technically, better, more skillful, yes. Faster, yes. More of a knowledge of the offside rule, yes. technically and gifted, yes. Just an all-round better player, potentially than Dessers, is ever going to be. I mean, Dessers is not going to get any better at this point. So, it's interesting that Zach Lovelace is back now, that he's played half an hour. Hopefully, like I said, we can start to see Dessers been used. Not Dessers been used. Dessers been moved out, sorry. And people like, Danilo hopefully back. But I'd love to see Lovelace given an opportunity. He genuinely cannot do any worse than what we're seeing at the moment. Zach is a top young player. And I think the telling factor is that, Zach is a forward, but he's been used by Rangers as a left winger, as a right winger. Certainly in the games we've seen him play, he was obviously that unlucky injury against St Mirren. He looked very, very good. He looked one of the best players on the pitch, more than able to cope with the stresses and strains of first team football. So hopefully, we'll see a little bit more of Zach Lovelace now that he's back and fit. I just hope the manager has the courage to actually follow through on what he was saying and what he said in a number of occasions about giving young players their head, giving young players the opportunity to play. For me, Zach Lovelace could be an absolute diamond for us this coming season, especially if we don't go on to sign a striker and we've got to put up with Dessers. Igman obviously not been fully fit, and Danilo, well, who knows what's going on with Danilo. But Zach Lovelace for me, I think could be quality. He really could be. And I think the sooner we see him, the sooner we see him given a chance, the better for us and the better for the club. Look, we are where we are at this moment in time. I think, like I said, at St Johnstone on Saturday, I think will be very telling. I think the ground will be half empty. I think there's a real growing dissatisfaction amongst the fan base. And I think you saw some of it is, we saw some of that demonstrated through the crowd on Tuesday night against Dynamo Kiev, under 40,000 for a crucial Champions League game is crazy. I mean, that would never happen at Ibrox. I know some of that is just down to the fact that Rangers fans don't want to go to Hampden because it's such a horrible ground. But I think there is starting to be a real air of dissatisfaction, and the board need to do something. They really do. And have they backed the manager enough to this point? No, of course they haven't. Philippe Clement is starting to cut a very disconsolate figure, really. But hopefully we'll start to get some more positive news. No links transfer wise, not real ones anyway, over the last sort of week. This rumor about Andrew McKinley. Lovelace been back. Hopefully there's some positive news around the corner for the club to try and bring this club back to where it belongs. We're just giving the opposition ammunition. Really we are letting them think they've got a chance of beating us, and certainly putting them in a position where, they can take slights at us whenever they fancy. It is worrying. It is worrying. But hopefully there will be some positive news over the next few days as we move towards that St Johnstone game on Saturday. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered in the video today. Please obviously smash that like, smash the sub as well, help the channel to keep on growing. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. But guys, on the way out, 2 jobs I always ask of you. Number 1, smash that like. And number 2, remember always, we are the people.